is she sitting at the back? Why? Maybe next week she will be the one teaching. Hey, teacher, what did you do to them?
They probably didn't read their stuff and they just said leave.
Frederick, when you are ready, you can start. How do we open the computer? We open the computer and you talk about what a motherboard is. You talk about where is the tema people. So let's wait for the tema people, then Frederick will start. So you are going to talk about whatever that we taught, the computer, how do we open the computer? When you open, you talk about the motherboard, you talk about the CPU, you talk about the heat sink, you talk about things. So I will give you like 10 minutes to talk about everything, okay? Frederick, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so when Tema people join, then we'll start.
So you said the CPU. Yeah.
So you talk about the tower, the case. Then you talk about when you open how to open the case, then you talk about the motherboard, right? What is a motherboard? What does it do? Then you talk about the CPU. Then after you talk about the heat sink, and you show us how to take the heat sink out. You take out the CPU and you tell us what it is. Okay? So write it down and I'll tell you when to start.
I've written it.
Roderick, are you ready? Okay, I'm giving you 2 minutes and we start. 2 minutes. So get everything that you have to get. 2 minutes.
Sir, please, I am ready. Sir.
So today we have our professor. Today we have our professor from Idra, and his name is Professor Frederick. And today he is going to start the teaching for us. So Professor Frederick, it is open to you. You are going to start from what is the computer? How do you open the case? What is the motherboard? What is the CPU? What is the heat sink? So our professor from IDRA, Professor Frederick, let's go.
I'll first start of the case. This is called the case. All this list is called a case. A computer case is a case that covers all the components of the system unit. And these are the case. The place which covers the components inside the system unit is called the case. Then come to the motherboard. So I want us to look how to open the case. If you look at the system unit, we have something here. So if you cut it like this, then if you open it like this, then the system unit itself will open, then you take it out. So I have opened my system unit. So the green thing that we can all see is the motherboard. So the motherboard is a component inside the system unit, which help all the components inside the system unit to function and operate well. Or it is the largest board in the system unit, which help all the components to interact well. And the motherboard can also be said it is the backbone of the computer. As you can see, the color of the motherboard is green, and there are so many things on the motherboard. Some like the fan, the heatsink, the CPU, and the RAM and ROM. So there we come to the heatsink. So we are coming to look at how to open the CPU. So how to open the heatsink. First you get your screwdriver. This is my screwdriver. Then you screw the distance out. The bolts out. So I am going to screw them out. I have my heatsink open, and here is the heatsink. So we come to the CPU.
Hey, Frederick, we can't hear you.
Yeah, coming.
Yeah, we have to hear what you are doing.
Yes, sir. So we are coming to open the CPU. Since we have removed our heatsink, we have to open the CPU and see what is on it and what is written on it. So some of the system units have bolts that you screw them out. But mine is, some metal, a pin that I will hold it and move it out. So I am going to remove my pin out. So if I remove it like this, then I open the CPU. There I have my CPU. So this is the CPU inside my system unit. It is written on it Intel Core E8400 and SLB9J Malay. So that is what is written on my system unit. My CPU. So we come to the uses of the CPU. What a CPU is. The CPU is known as the brain of the computer. It performs all the logic. It performs all the logic operations inside the computer. The CPU is considered as the brain of the computer. The CPU also performs and processes data. So without your CPU, your computer can't function. It's like a man without sense. So a man without sense don't know what to do. You don't have the sense to work or to eat. So the CPU is the brain of the computer, which teaches the computer how and what to do. So if you are not having the CPU, your computer can't work. Then we come to the heat sink. The heat sink is what protects the CPU from getting heat. So if your CPU is heat, that means your computer will work slowly. And a way to protect the CPU that it will not get heat. I have my fan here, and this is the fan. That the fan will help so that the fan will push the CPU. The fan will push the CPU so that it will not get heat. The fan will push the CPU so that it will not get, it will not work slowly in the computer. So we have two fans. We have this one and the other one here. So this one is to cool the heat sink and the CPU so that your CPU will not become hot, so that your computer will not work slowly. And the other fan is to protect, is push all the components in the system unit. So if your system unit is in your system unit, if it is heated, that means your computer is not going to work well. And it is from the CPU that the system unit that the computer can work. Without CPU, we don't have computer. So the other fan puts all the components in the system unit. So I'm coming back to the motherboard. As I said, some of the motherboard are large and small in size. It depends. Some are large and some are small. So mine here is, I can say it is small, but it is big, but it's not big like that. So the motherboard is green in color. So the color of the motherboard is green. And there are so many things on there are so many components on the motherboard, as you can see, some like heat sink, as I mentioned, the ROM and RAM, the heat sink, and other things which I can't mention them. So the work of the motherboard is to hold all the components inside the system unit so that it can communicate and interact with. So without the motherboard is also known as your mother in the house. Without your mother, there will not you won't get food to eat. It is the mother which bring peace in the house. So the motherboard who joins all the components together as the same compared to your mother in the house. He joins all the nuclear family or the extended family. So without your mother, baby, you won't get food to eat. And this one, without the motherboard, all the components can work and the computer can work. So the motherboard help the system. The motherboard is a board. It's a board that all the components of the system unit are connected to. So, sir, please, I am done. So if somebody has a question, he can ask. He or she can ask me.
Okay, you should ask a question.
You said all the components are connected to the motherboard, but the fan is not connected to the motherboard. Why? So,
Cedric, good job, okay?
yes, madam. Thank you. That's your question.
Why is it that the heat sink cools the central processing unit?
The reason why I said that is because it is the fan which the heatsink covers the CPU, and the fan cools the CPU so that the fan cools the heatsink so that it will not make the CPU hot. That is why I said that.
You
Please,
said,
have you understand the answer?
you said the motherboard helps the components in the system unit to communicate with one another. So why is it that without the motherboard, so can the other components still work?
No, without the motherboard, the components cannot work because it is the motherboard that all the components are on it, but not all the components. As we can see some, and without the CPU, the computer can work, and the CPU is also on the motherboard. That means the motherboard holds all the components together.
You said all the components, or
Some of them, it's not all of them. Please, is that all my questions? No. You can ask your question. Please, if the heatsink becomes hot, what will happen to the CPU? Yes, the CPU will, it will be dull, so it can't help it can't give correct information to the computer. It will be giving you wrong information, and it will not help the computer to work faster as you want it. So that is the problem which will the CPU will give it to the computer when it is seated.
teachers the meaning of backbone.
Yes, the backbone is the bone that all your body parts are connected to. So without your backbone or the spinal cord, your backbone, your body, you die. Yes, you die. So that's the same. It's the same to the motherboard. Without the motherboard, which is the backbone of the computer can't work. And if the computer doesn't work, we see to it that it has died.
So what is the main function of the CPU?
Guys, he has already explained all these stuff. Let's get serious, okay? Please, let's get serious, because tomorrow it will be you, and you don't want somebody to do that to you. Okay?
Yeah, Frederick. Yeah, you have answered that, and so who answered that? Who asked the question? Okay, so he said that what is the function of the CPU?
Yes, sir.
So go ahead and let's see. What's the function?
The function of the CPU is to help the computer to work well. It processes data into useful commands.
So when they say a CPU, what is the full meaning of CPU?
It is central processing unit.
Okay.
That is the full meaning of it.
Okay. Any more questions to Frederick? If you have questions, ask Fred. Okay.
The RAM also processes information, or
they are all the same, but it's not the same.
So why is it that the central processing
The RAM is memory, and if it was mobile phone, we say the CPU is the battery. Yes. So please, is there any question again, or that is all?
So can you teach us the component that help the CPU to communicate? Oh,
Please, I can't tell you. Is there a motherboard in our mobile phones? Yes, I can say yes, because the mobile phone is the same as the computer, and if you want to know, open your mobile phone and you will find the motherboard there. Where can you do the you can bring it and let me know. So, is there also a funny way?
I think the questions are okay for interactive. Maybe Fancy and then
yes, and then Tema, you can ask us. You can bring your questions.
Okay, Tema, you can ask him questions. Frederick is ready for questions.
Yes, I'm ready.
Hello, Frederick.
Yes,
You said when the CPU is hot, it gives wrong commands. So does it mean if my CPU is if my computer is giving me wrong command, the CPU is hot?
not all the time that the CPU will give you wrong commands when it is heated. It is sometimes. Yes, or maybe there is problem in your computer.
I think this is where Cedric will get a lawyer from Professor.
Has been attacked by a computer.
No, he's saying the right words. Go ahead.
That is where it will give you this. That is what I can say to answer.
Frederick,
Yes.
does it mean some of the components work with the CPU to give commands? So if maybe let's say,
listen to you.
okay, I'm saying, is it that some of the components in the system unit works with the CPU?
Please, I didn't get your question.
So when the CPU, when the computer is giving wrong command, it is not always tied to the CPU, as Professor Frederick said, right? Yes. But sometimes it can be, it will malfunction, right? It will not act right. The brain of the computer is hot, so it will not function right. So sometimes it will cause certain things to happen. So like the question that you threw at him, that if he gives the wrong command, it is not always the time. That is what he said. So can you repeat your next question, the question that you had for him?
I was saying, do we have any other component that also gives commands apart from the CPU?
That also gives what? You said the component that also gives what?
Command, that also process commands. Your information. Or your information.
Yes, it is. The RAM and the RAM also processes commands. One source information temporary, one source information permanent.
So
Please,
how does both
answered your question?
So how does both of them combine to work?
Francis, please, do you have a question for me?
Any more questions? Ethel, do you have any questions? Miss Kezia, do you have any questions? So Miss Kezia has question for our Professor Frederick. Miss Kezia has question for Professor Frederick. So then if nobody has question, Professor, you ask them questions. You call them by name and ask them questions. So Frederick, ask them questions.
Sir, please, one is asking me a question. Then listen to him.
Okay, listen to him, answer his question, then ask us many questions. No, we have to hear his question.
Yes, I didn't hear your question.
Hello.
I will say yes, because it is the system unit that brings commands to the computer. And without the system unit, we don't have a computer. Only monitor, keyboard, and mouse can't work. Without normally the virus catches the system unit. So that is what I have to do. Okay.
Frederick.
So
Frederick,
yes.
what will you do if the computer case becomes overheated to cool it down?
Whether the fan will be working and the fan will push it, or you turn off your computer for a while. That is what you do to reduce the need of your system. Or you can restart your computer.
Frederick, can all CPU be removed? Frederick, can all CPU be removed? And also, without the CPU, can the memory work perfectly?
So Frederick is about to log in and he is going to answer. Professor Frederick is going to answer your question that can this all CPU be removed, right?
Yes. And without the CPU, can the memory work perfectly?
So let's give him 1 minute and let him before I answer that question. So are we all learning something? Right? Are we all learning something?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Do you know the secret thing, right? Frederick joined the line. Fred logged in, and I told him to teach the class today. I did not tell him last week. It was this morning while we were waiting for Tema, and I told Frederick, today you are the one going to teach the class. And he said, yes, sir. Right? He said, yes, sir. And he went ahead to do it. So that tells me that it's a whole lot of things that he listened in class and he is confident to be teaching it. And he is able to teach it and explain it to his knowledge, which is good. He has done good job. He has done a good job. So that is the expectation that I have for every one of you. I have the same expectation for, who is my friend over here? Kezia. I have the same expectation for her that next week, when you say next week, Kezia, get the computer and start teaching at Kezia will say, yes, sir. Right? The following week, if we say Ethel will teach, if the next time we say somebody else would teach, right? That is my Ethel's best friend, the one that I saw her thumb up. So so you see that everything is working. I did not call Frederick during the week and say, Frederick, you are going to teach. This morning, Frederick said, yes, I'm going to teach. So Frederick, good job. They had two questions. The first question was that, can all CPU be removed, right? Then ask your question. Ask the question again. Right now, our professor is here. Ask your question again.
Frederick, please, can the CPU be removed?
Yes, it can be removed. It can be screwed out, or you can peel it out.
Like,
because this one is not a boat whereby you use the screwdriver to screw, but you just cut the thing and you remove it out. This is very easy to remove the CPU.
Okay. What was your other question? So the other question is,
without a CPU, can the memory work perfectly?
No.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Frederick. No.
Because without the CPU, the whole computer can't work.
More questions? I see Auntie Gifty sitting down there. Auntie Gifty, any question? Okay. Frante, any question?
No, sir.
Okay. Professor Frederick, ask them questions. Ask them a lot of questions. So you have to
answer all my questions.
Yeah, they have to answer all your questions.
Yes.
So
the first question is, what is the full meaning of CPU?
Central Processing Unit. It's a central processing unit.
Okay, that is correct. Then the second question, how does the heat sink help the CPU? Or how does the heat sink help the CPU to work?
It cools down the CPU.
No, somebody else too can answer. So Frederick, you can
The
pick
heat
the person
sink
to
cools
answer.
up.
You said, I didn't get you.
Well, farm, only for time.
Frederick did not hear you.
The heat sink cools down the CPU whenever it's getting hot.
Heat sink.
Please, in which way does the heat sink cool the CPU? By what way?
Also, besides, I want that the heat sink. Just a fun was a heat sink. Tell me heat. That's fine. One, two.
Mr. Gabriel. Please, I am asking you a question. I said, which way does the CPU, the heat sink cools down the CPU?
The fan or the heat sink?
I didn't get you.
Oh, it's rather the fan.
Yeah. That is what I wanted from you. I want you to say it is the fan which cools the system. So, yeah, and my other question, what is mean by a CPU or define CPU? Please, I didn't hear you.
Abdullah want to answer. She want to answer. Abdullah, she wants to answer. She's sitting. Yeah, she want to answer. I saw her that she wanted to talk. So let her answer. She's not ready to answer.
Amber, please, are you not ready to answer my question?
No, if she didn't answer, let Auntie Gifty. Auntie Gifty is sitting right there. Auntie Gifty is sitting right there. Auntie Gifty can answer.
Please, somebody has answered it. So let me ask another question so that you answer it.
Okay, ask another question, Professor.
What is the work of the CPU? And please, we are listening to you. Please, any other person can answer it. I said, what is the work of the CPU inside the computer? Francis, group, and Gabriel, you and your group, you can answer my question.
A CPU serves information such as data.
That is correct. Any other person?
Yeah. Please, my name is Nadia Congo. It tells the computer how
and what to perform a function. Please, I didn't get you. It tells the computer how and what to perform a function. That is correct. It tells the computer how and what to do or how to function. So another question. Why is it that all the components are not connected to the motherboard, but some are connected out of the motherboard?
Please, your question again.
I said, why is it that all the other components are not connected to the motherboard, but some are connected, some are not connected on the motherboard? Why is it that all the components are not connected?
Why is it that what are the things that are connected to the motherboard, or why is it that
CPU is not connected to the motherboard?
CPU is not connected. It's the motherboard.
It doesn't.
So is Antigifty ready? Is Antigifty ready to answer?
Please, she said the question again.
I said,
So Professor Frederick, they said, what is the Antigifty said, what is the question? Because she is eager to answer. She can't wait to answer. She wants to answer.
mention some of the components on this motherboard.
So, yeah, so until Gifty, Frederick has said, mention some of the components of the motherboard.
The CPU slot.
Somebody said something. What did you say?
Hard disk.
Okay. Frederick, is she correct?
Yes, sir. Sir, their name, so you can mention it in.
Yeah, they have to say their names, right? They have to say Gifty. They have to mention their name. They don't, it's like they want me to mention their names for them. So right now, who is, yeah, I see Miss Doreen. Miss Doreen too is smiling. Right? So, Frederick, keep on answering your question. If you can see their name, mention their name. So ask your questions.
Gabriel, please, I mentioned some of the components on the motherboard.
Kezia. You said Kezia, right?
I said Gabriel.
Gabriel, okay. You should have said Kezia. You should have said Kezia.
Yeah, I am talking.
Okay.
So,
Okay, next time say Kezia. Next time, yes. So Gabriel, what are the...
After Gabriel, Kezia.
Okay, after this Kezia.
Yes. After Kezia, Francisca.
So Gabriel, answer it, then Kezia can also, because Kezia, she's ready to answer.
The video card.
The video card, okay? Okay.
And the DVD banner.
Okay. Kezia.
And
Dominica, power supplier.
Okay. Somebody said power supply, which is good.
Clifford.
Say Kezia. Don't say Cliff. Say Kezia.
Kezia.
Okay, Kezia. Kezia, if Frederick called your name, Professor called you. Frederick, there's other one called Airtel. So Airtel. So you have to say all those ones.
Yes. So Kezia. Miss Kezia.
Yeah.
Please.
Go ahead. Tell her the question.
The question is mention some of the components on the motherboard.
No, Airtel, we don't want you to type it there. We want you to say it. Kezia, we are waiting on you.
Sir.
Yes, Airtel.
Mine is heat sink and the fan.
Okay. Frederick, is she correct?
I didn't hear her.
Okay, Professor Frederick did not hear you. Frederick did not hear you.
I said
DVD burner.
yes.
Frederick, is she correct?
Yes, it's correct.
The heat sink and the fan.
Is she correct? She said the heat sink and the fan. Is she correct?
Yes, she's correct.
Okay.
Miss Kezia, Airtel also mentioned one for me.
There are people in the Fanti land. You see how they want to hide. You have to call them by name again. You see, they want to hide. So Frederick, ask them questions. They are ready. You see how they are ready to answer. Ask them questions.
The girl who is wearing the green shirt.
Yes.
That is a computer case.
Yeah.
That is a computer case.
It's a case that holds all the components inside the system unit.
But she missed one thing. She didn't say her name. She's waiting for me to tell her her name. I won't do that. She has to say her name. So what is your name? Okay. Professor Frederick, did you hear her name?
Yes, Abdullah Fatima.
Okay. Who else? Who else? I don't see.
The boy sitting by Abdullah Fatima.
Correct.
The CPU is also known as the
Central Processing Unit.
No, I am not saying the full unit of the CPU. I said the CPU in the system unit is also known as the
brain of the computer.
That's correct. Please, what is your name?
Apia Elisha.
Yeah, Elisha. Thank you. Please, is Telephone there?
No.
Okay. Then
there's more people in Tema that are trying to hide. Look at Ethel's best friend. She has the other earpiece in her ears. Ethel's best friend. So you have to call her Ethel's best friend so she can say her name.
Okay.
Sir.
She gave me Kalo. Ethel's friend gave me Kalo.
My best friend, her name is Gifty.
Are you?
The one I...
Okay. Oh, your best friend. Oh, yes, Auntie Gifty, I remember. Okay.
She's the one.
Okay, so Frederick, let them ask more questions. More questions, Frederick. There are so many people in the Tema area, but they are hiding.
I'll ask them.
Don't ask them. Ask them many questions.
Yes, I'll ask them. So, Miss Gifty, what is the color of the motherboard?
Eric, please, green.
So, okay, that is correct. It is green in color. Another question goes to Kezia. Your question is, if the CPU is hot, what will happen to the heatsink? Miss Kezia. Miss Kezia. Kezia.
What? Miss Kezia don't want to talk.
Okay, Gabriel.
No, she's ready. Miss Kezia is ready. You see that she is ready to talk. She has even changed headphones. She wants to talk.
Please, your question again.
I said, where is the CPU located in the system unit?
The CPU is located under the heat sink.
That is correct. Another question.
What about Abdullah and the two ladies sitting next to her?
I'll ask them. I'm even going to mention their name. So Francisca, since you come, I haven't heard you. Francisca Mobila. What will happen to the CPU when the heating is heated? Miss Francisca, please come let them see your face.
Are they answering the question?
Francisca is answering the question.
Okay, go, Francisca. Francisca, please answer the question.
The CPU somehow she has answered, but that is not how I wanted it.
Thank you. Professor, talk to them that if you don't like the answer, talk to them.
Yes, I don't like the answer. And Andela says she give me the perfect answer. So okay. Let all of us listen to Andela.
Okay.
To answer.
We can't hear her. Tell her that all of us, we can't hear her.
Andala is here. He's going to answer the question.
Professor, did you hear her?
Yes, I heard.
What did she say?
That it affects the data processing.
And did you like her answer?
Somehow, that is not all.
Oh, then let her answer. If it is somehow, that is not, then let her fully answer it then.
So, Francis, I am going to Francis. The boy sitting at the back of Elisha and Fatima, who is wearing the yellow shirt, please answer the question. What will happen to the heat sink? And what will happen to the CPU when the heat sink is heated?
Look at they are muted. So they have to come off mute and answer the question.
Please, what is your name? What is your name?
They are on mute. You have to tell them to come off mute so that he can, okay.
My name is Yaku.
Yakubu what?
The system will work slow. Yakubu David.
Yakubu David. So David, I said what will happen to the CPU when the heat sink is heated?
It will work slow.
So, sir, if I compile all the answers, I will say I like that, and that is good.
Oh, okay. So you guys have, Professor, have they answered all your questions? Frederick, have they answered all your questions? Hey, no, why are you hitting the professor?
They're saying I should ask more questions. That is why they are hitting me.
So, okay. So add like 5 more questions, then we'll ask 5 more, or you are done.
Yes, another question.
Okay.
It goes to all the
everybody
except Adria.
Except Adria. Hey, Frederick, this one there, everybody except Adria. Hey, ask your question. Ask your question.
I received a pause here. So if I ask, they will first answer
it. So Frederick. So Frederick, ask the question.
I said, what will happen to the computer when the heat sink or the fan gets spoiled?
And it is for everybody, right?
Yes, except Adria.
Okay. Because Adria has the apple.
Yes.
Okay.
Angela has shared the apple to them.
So you can answer, Tema can answer, Fanti can answer. Fanti can answer, anybody can answer.
That gives commands.
I didn't get you.
It gives wrong commands.
Any other answer?
So did they answer your question?
That is not all.
Okay, so please, you did not answer all the questions for Professor. So next.
It works slowly.
Hello. Asia and your group.
Frederick, please, your question again.
I said, what?
Please, question again.
What will happen to the computer when the fan or the heat sink is spoiled or is not working? Assuming we don't have heat sink or fan in the system unit.
The computer will not function well. Yes.
Then
the computer is
So, Professor, are you done?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That is all the question I have for
okay. So I want us to clap for the professor, our new professor, JJ Frederick, right? So Professor, most of the people don't know you. You have to pronounce your name again. What is your name?
My name is, Midi. Maybe some of you can't mention it well. My name is Frederick Yenutien Dumaluka. That is my name.
Oh, we like the
Meaning of the, I want to show them the meaning of my names.
Okay, go ahead.
Meaning of the Yenutie means God has done it. That's the meaning of Yenutie. And the Domanuka is also all countries are sweet. That is the meaning of my names.
Oh, okay. So can we all call you Frederick?
Yes, everybody can call me Frederick.
Okay. So can we please clap for our new Professor Frederick?
One thing I want to say.
Okay.
Tomorrow is my birthday.
Hey! Okay. Hey. Tomorrow is 6th March.
Yes, sir.
Oh, so are you going to march?
Yes, how much?
Oh, okay. Okay. So tomorrow is Professor Frederick's birthday. Let us all sing happy birthday to him. Right? Because we will not see him tomorrow. So let us all sing happy birthday for Professor Frederick. If it is your birthday, you have to let us know that it is your birthday. So let's go. 1, 2, 3. Let's sing.
Happy birthday to you.
Ethel is not singing.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Happy
Birthday.
So I know I was watching the mouth, right? I saw Ethel not singing. She was just smiling throughout. How can you smile and sing at the same time? How can you smile and sing at the same time? So she wasn't singing. Miss Doreen too wasn't singing. So, Frederick, happy birthday. I know that we might not talk till next week. So whatever that you do on your birthday, when you come back next week, please let us know. Right? Yeah, please let us know what you did for your birthday. Okay. So class, Frederick have done well. And he didn't prepare. I didn't call Frederick that Frederick, you are going to teach. It was this morning that I saw him online and I said, Frederick, you are the one teaching today. And he said, yes, sir. So which means that he did very well, right? He taught us and he understands what we are doing. So I'm happy that he's able to do that. And also the expectation for everyone is for everyone to also know and to do that. That what is the computer, as he taught about the motherboard, we will continue. So this is what I want you guys to do for next week. Next week, each one of you should write like 10 to 15 questions that you want to ask anyone. So Miss Ethel will write her 15 questions. Ethel's best friend, Gifty, will write her 15 questions. Mr. Gabriel will write his 15 questions. Everybody will write 15 questions. So when we come to class, it is question and answers, right? Then our professor will say that when you answer the question, professor will say, okay, hey, it is correct. Or if it's not correct, we are going to discuss, because I want us to understand what we've learned so far so that we can add on it, right? It looked like the Idra people, all of them, they are all ready to teach. They are all ready to teach, right? So we'll all come in, go through the questions. So you have to write it down. Write your questions down about what we've learned. Frederick asked so many questions, which is good. Okay. So overall, we have done well. Frederick have done well. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Before we leave. Okay, Miss Ethel wants to say something.
Sir, please, you said we should next week you should write down 1 to 15 questions. And I was asked that based on what topic? Is it on the motherboard or the
what we've learned so far? What we have learned.
What we've learned so far. Okay.
Yeah, what we've learned so far. Write your 15 questions. 15 or more.
Okay.
Because when it reaches your turn, you start throwing the questions. That okay, so what is this? What does it mean? Then when they answer the question, you tell us, are they right or wrong? Right? Like, yeah, so everybody will have their chance to go through. So write 15 questions about what we have learned so far. Questions about the motherboard, questions about the computer case, questions about the CPU, what the CPU does, write all those ones. So when we come next week, we'll go through it. You come, you say, Ethel, come and tell us your 15 questions. Then you throw it to Idra, to Frantic people, to Miss Kezia, to Miss Gifty, to Gabriel, to everybody, except Miss Letitia. Right. Yeah, except her. So you throw all your questions at everybody except her. Okay. So I'm happy that we are all learning, and I'm happy for everybody. Okay. So we will talk to each other next week. Letitia, any comment? Mama Letitia, any comment? Where's Mama Letitia? We are waiting for Mama Letitia. She's coming soon right now.
Yeah, somebody have a question here.
Okay.
So the reason is if somebody asked this question, I didn't heard some Frederick answering it, and I want to ask: Is there any component that processes information apart from the central processing unit?
So, Frederick, do you want to answer that?
Okay. I first answered it, and since he hasn't here, I have to say it again. The RAM and ROM can also process information. It is not only the.
How can it process?
It's not only it's not only the CPU.
So.
How can it? How can it process information?
How can what process information? The meaning of that question is, if you understand what is a RAM, right? So if you understand what RAM does, if you understand what RAM does, right? Then you will know. So the meaning, and out of the meaning, you are going to use it to answer your question, right? So we have to find out what RAM does. What is a RAM? right? So when we find out what RAM does, we are going to use the meaning of RAM to answer that question. I know that we haven't gone to that side yet. We haven't even taken the RAM out, right? So whoever asked that question, write it down. Write the question down. When we start learning about RAM and the memory, then you will bring it up. Then I will ask you the same question, then you will answer. Okay? Write it down somewhere. Don't forget. Okay? Okay, write it down. Any other question?
No.
Okay. So if no, on that note, good night. Hey, it is afternoon, right?
Good night.
Okay. On that note, good night. We will talk to you all next week, Monday. But next week, Saturday, write your question down. We'll answer it when we get to RAM. Okay? All right. So bye for now.